Hello, I'm Shally. If this is your first time here, welcome. We've been here before, welcome back. And today I'm coming to you live from the beautiful park. I love this park. It's so big. I'm in such a random part of the park and there's literally nobody around. It's amazing. With that said, what I want to talk to you about today is isolation, or hermit mode, if you will, and honestly how important it is. So I used to be the type of person that was always in the mix, always at the functions, always at the parties. You could call me any night of the week, anytime, and I always know what's going on, where to go. My phone never stopped ringing of people calling me to complain about advice, come here, pick them up, do that. Like, it was nonstop. And although I was like, yeah, I'm a good friend, I'm a good sister, I'm a good daughter, I'm always available to people, after literally decades of doing that, I eventually got burnt out. And I realized that I was not equating any of that time and that effort and that energy. I was not giving any of that to myself. I was spreading myself so thin and there was literally nothing left for me. And that's just really not okay. And you'll get to a point when if you're living your life like that, where you will literally just stop and you can't do it anymore. And then when you do that, you might start to feel selfish and you're like, oh, if I don't do this, or if I'm not always available for them, if I'm not doing that, then they won't like me anymore. Then our friendship will die out. Then I won't be that good of a person. And in all reality, that's not true at all. That's just something that as people pleasers, as people who put others before ourselves, have made up in our minds. And we made up this lie in our minds to make us feel better about giving so much of ourselves to everybody else. Anywho, so my body, my mind forced me into isolation. And not even just that. I ended up moving to Miami a couple years ago because I just wanted like I was already feeling it. I was like, I don't really like the people I'm around. I don't really like what I'm doing. I feel very like in a cycle and I want to do something different. And so I moved to Miami and I moved there with my cousin. It was just us and we're living in a cute little apartment in the city, which LOL, there's so many people that live there, but I didn't know any of them. So it was just like a good time for me to just, kind of be by myself, just with her and just do my thing, whatever. And then a month later, the pandemic happened. So that mini isolation, I was trying to get away from like my really demanding friends and family members. Oh yeah, I got that, because when the pandemic happened, obviously we all know we sat inside for months. We were too afraid to even go hang out with each other, to go do anything, to be around each other for so long. So that like really put my isolation and hermit mode period into high gear. Like that really started it. So I spent a lot of time with myself, and I was the type of person who was never alone. Even though my cousin was with me, living with me, she kind of kept to herself. So like I spent a lot of time by myself, and I spent a lot of time physically away from the people that I used to be so physically available to all the time. Don't get me wrong, they would call me all the time and stuff, but being physically away made me realize how much of myself that I was really giving to others, because I had time to literally do self-care. I had time to relax. I had time to read. I had time to think about what I even want to do, or who I even want to be. And it was really for the first time in my life at almost 30 years old that I had this alone time to myself, and I didn't even realize how bad I needed it, how desperately I needed this time for myself. Because until you really spend time with yourself alone, and like you find out what you like and who you are and what you don't like and whatnot, you don't really know yourself. I just really don't think, how could you even possibly know yourself if you're constantly surrounded by other people and picking up on their opinions and their ways of thinking and their lifestyles and whatever? How do you know what you like? Especially if it's people you've been around your whole life, like your friends or your family. How do you even possibly know unless you take that time to be with just you? Throughout this time, like I said, I started realizing all these things, and it kept distancing me more and more, not even just physically. I started just to become more distant from those people, and emotionally, energetically, not even just physically. And my life started to get better. I started to feel better. I started to like myself more. I started to find out things that I liked doing more, and I started to do those things. And the people that I was so used to being around all the time, guess what? They didn't like doing those things that I like to do. I realized that the things that I used to do with them all the time, I didn't like doing those things that they like to do. So it was just a very eye-opening experience, and really finding myself and figuring myself out and figuring out what my passions were and my purpose and like hobbies that I liked. This isolation period went on for quite some time, about a year. And within that year, I learned so much, I grew so much, and I healed so much. And I started to realize that a lot of the ways that I used to be in my friendships, a lot of the friendships I used to have, a lot of the things I used to do, whatever, was really based in trauma bonds, like trauma responses, doing it because I felt like I had to, being in this area and doing these things because that's what I've always done around these people I've always known. And once I realized that I was just doing these things and acting this way because of just habit and proximity, my life got so much better because I just stopped. I stopped doing it. I started to feel better. You know what I mean? I started to just feel more alive and feel more like myself. And I'm 30 now, and I'm not kidding. I didn't even figure out what I actually like to do and what I actually wanted to do with my life and how I wanted to be until I was 29. Not crazy. And I feel like a lot of people still don't even know because they're so fucking busy doing whatever, hanging out with so many people, filling their time because they just don't want to sit with themselves. And sitting with yourself and sitting with your thoughts and healing yourself, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's hard, but that's why a lot of people like staying busy, because just sitting with yourself and sitting with your thoughts and realizing who you are and why you do the things you do is kind of daunting. Anyway, I went through this isolation period, this hermit mode, and it was so necessary. And it was like it upgraded my life, if that makes sense. It just really upgraded my life, because after this isolation period, you got to get to a point where, okay, you've been in your hermit mode, you've been healing, whatever, but you got to go back out into the world. You got to go back and interact with people again. You can't just be by yourself forever in this world. And don't get me wrong, like spending some time with yourself is so necessary, but like we are like communal people, like community. That's what humans, we build with community. Nobody does anything by themselves. So you got to get back out into the world, right? And start interacting with people. And by habit, you might start going and interacting with the people that you used to interact with before, that you knew, your familiar places. And then you're going to go, you'll probably go back and do those things, hang out with those people, and realize like, damn, I don't fit in with this anymore. I don't fit into this lifestyle anymore. I don't fit in with this group of people anymore. Like, I think differently now. I act differently now. I think higher of myself now. I'm very selective of where I put my energy and who I hang out with and what I even talk about. And that's okay. That's really good, actually. It means that you're growing. And it doesn't mean, it's not a bad thing, like not all relationships and friendships last forever. And you might even realize sometimes this is with family members. I know that one might be tough, like, damn. But like, sometimes that's just the way it is. So anyway, isolation and going into hermit mode, I think is really necessary on your healing journey and on your self-development journey if you want to become a better version of yourself, because you learn yourself. You get to really know yourself. You get to really love yourself, because when you spend a lot of time with yourself, you really learn to love yourself, because if you didn't, you wouldn't want to hang out with yourself all the time. And so I just believe so much good can come out of being by yourself for a little bit. But like I said, you got to get back out into the world. You got to start hanging out with people again. And guess what? You'll emerge back into the world as this new person. And your energy will be different. You'll be feeling better. You'll be feeling lighter. You have your hobbies. You have your mindset, all this stuff. And you will literally attract people to you who think like that, who act like that, who are like that, who are like you. Your people that you really, 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 really vibe with. Not just the people that you grew up with or that the people you lived in the same house with, like your people. So yeah, it's kind of like a full circle moment. It's really cool. It's like you get back to yourself. You really sit with yourself, by yourself, to get back to yourself. And then you present yourself out back into the world, and then you attract everything that's really for you, everyone who's really for you. So yeah, I just wanted to speak on that today. That's all I have for today, as I'm literally sitting in the park alone with my dogs who are having a good time. One of my dogs is literally on my foot. That's why she wasn't going very far. I hope if any of you are going through an isolation period and you're just kind of confused and you're like, I don't have that many friends anymore. I don't like going there anymore. I don't like doing that anymore. Like, what's wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing's wrong with you at all. You're changing, you're growing, you're healing, you're coming back to yourself. You're being the person that you were always meant to be, that you probably hid or that you probably just masked, and you are literally becoming your best and highest self. So just keep going, okay? I hope you have a beautiful day, and I love you. Bye.